Hi guys, I'm Sayla. Today I'm going to be making a round crusty French bread loaf for you guys. It's something that I've made about 5 times within the last couple months. It's really fun for me to make. I learned it over winter break. I just learned how to make this myself. It ended up being really good, and I've made it for my friends. It's vegetarian and there's no milk in it, so all my lactose intolerant friends can have it without any allergies. And so it's been pretty great. So the 4 steps that we have today are measuring the ingredients, mixing the ingredients, leavening time, which is basically just how long it takes the loaf to rise to its full height, and then baking. And we will be baking in this Dutch oven, which just really helps to disperse the heat nicely, and it creates a lot of steam so that we can get that nice crusty loaf. So first we're going to be measuring out each ingredient. I like to use this digital scale because it's much more accurate and it's easier to measure out more if you're doubling the recipe. I didn't get my ingredients out. Okay, for this we're only going to need 5 ingredients. We're going to need flour, all-purpose flour, not self-rising, some white sugar, some salt, some yeast. I'm using rapid rise instant yeast, and we're also going to need some water, which I'll be measuring in this cup. Okay, so here we've got my digital scale. We're first going to change it to grams, and then I've got this bowl. So first we have to tare it, and then that just makes it go back to 0 so that we can measure it in. So I've got my flour right here, and we're going to measure 360 grams of flour. Alright, there. And there we've got 360 grams. Okay, now we're going to measure 10 grams of kosher salt. Alright, there we go. 10 grams. Good. And then we need 4 grams of sugar. You can also use honey if you want, but I'm just going to use sugar. The 2 things I'm not going to measure with my scale is going to be this yeast, because 1 packet equals about 2 1/4 teaspoon, and that's how much we need, so I'm not going to even measure it. We need 300 grams of water, or 1 1/4 cup. And we're going to get it warm because the yeast is going to grow in it, and it needs to be about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to use our digital thermometer right here. 120, perfect. So now we're going to move on to our next step, which is mixing our ingredients. We're going to start out with our yeast. I'm going to start by pouring in our sugar. Mixing the sugar and the water together so that the yeast has something nice to grow on. And then I'm going to open this and I'm going to pour it into my little water mixture. Then I'm going to mix this up again, and we're going to let this sit for about 5 minutes until it gets nice and foamy and bloomy. While this is sitting off to the side, we're going to get our flour in this bowl. We're also going to get our salt, and we're going to whisk that together. If you mix the salt in after you've already mixed the flour in and the dough's already started to form, then you might end up with really salty bites when your bread's done, and that's not what we want, and that's not good. Now we're going to add the flour and the yeast, and we're just going to mix all that up until it's nice and incorporated and there are no dry bits of flour left. This isn't really a dough that's going to be real smooth at the end. It's a pretty rustic looking loaf, I guess you could call it. Now we're going to flour the loaf and flip it over in the bowl, and then we're going to flour the other side. So I just like getting a little bit of flour and I dust it on the top. So now we're going to flip it, and it's going to be a mess, but that's okay. Okay, got to put her on. It's okay. And then I'm going to flour the other side, just so that it doesn't stick to itself. So our next step is the leavening step. I was going to let this loaf rise overnight, but I forgot about this project and I'm running out of time to do it. So we're going to only let it rise for about an hour, I'd say, maybe 2. And it'll still get a nice crumb. A crumb is those air pockets that you get in your bread. So sourdough bread has giant air pockets, and so it has a looser crumb. Wow, versus your sandwich bread has very small air holes, so that's a tight crumb. Ours is going to be somewhere in the middle. So I'm just going to cover this with a towel so that it doesn't get a hard skin on the outside, and then we'll come back to it in about an hour. now that our bread is risen for about an hour and a half, we're ready to go. I'm gonna lay down this rubber mat, which will work as a surface that we can knead our bread on. Start by just sprinkling some flour on top of it. We've got our dough here. It's risen quite nicely. It's looking good. And I'm gonna start just tipping the dough out. All right, there we go. We're just gonna pull each side in. Now we've got that looking good. We're gonna put some more flour on top of our bread loaf. Okay, now we're going to be transferring the bread into this bowl, and you need to start by oiling it. Okay, this is the scariest part. It's stuck to that a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just going to cover it back up with our towel until the oven is ready to go. We are going to be preheating it on 460. On bake, and we're going to put our Dutch oven in the oven so that it can warm up with it. Now our oven is preheated, so we've got our bread here that's been sitting, and I'm going to pull the Dutch oven out. It's very hot, so make sure you're wearing gloves. Okay, so I've got this here. And then what I like to do is I like putting parchment paper into it, because I just find that it's easier to pull the bread out once you're done. So okay, we got that. And we're going to put it in the Dutch oven seam side up, and that's going to create a bunch of nice and pretty cracks for us. And there we go. Okay. And we're going to put it back in the oven, and this is going to bake for about 30 minutes.